Welcome to the Lady Landlords podcast, where we empower women to gain financial independence through real estate investing. I'm your host, Becky Nova, founder of Lady Landlords. If you're ready to buy, manage, and grow your real estate portfolio, then let's get started.
Are you a lady landlord that is stuck in the dreaded buy, save cycle? If you have been trying to figure out how to scale your portfolio without having to always need that 20% down for the next property, this is the episode for you, okay? I see this all the time in Lady Landlords where people go and they buy that first property. And interestingly, I feel that a lot of women find that first property to be the most difficult to be able to buy. But to be honest, I've always found it to be the second property that's the most difficult to be able to purchase. Why is that? The first property usually is either an accident where it was maybe a primary residence and now you're moving and you turn it into it. Maybe you inherit a property or you have your savings. You're just getting into the world of real estate investing and it makes sense. Save money, go to lender, be able to buy property. But now when you're looking to purchase that next property, be able to buy multiple properties in a year, or maybe even just one property every year for a few years, this is where women get so tripped up and really get stuck when it comes to investing. But to be honest, the experienced investors are really kind of using their own money out there, okay? And unfortunately, a lot of times we're not talking enough about where those opportunities are to get that money. And it comes down to the idea that real estate investing isn't the money itself. It's actually all about the opportunity to be able to finance and understanding how to better structure those deals. It's not the lady with the most amount of money that's actually scaling the best. It's the lady who understands financing the best that is the one that can be the most successful in scaling. Now, I was that typical person. I had never thought of this. I did not think that I personally would ever end up being in real estate. My goal originally was just to buy a place for me to be able to live. That was it. Once I got into real estate and bought that first property, which was a house hack in New York State, I realized what potential there was within this. And I got absolutely hooked and I wanted to be able to do it again. And I remember when I started talking to the people that I did that first deal with, my lender, my realtor, when I was saying to them, like, oh my God, this is amazing, I want to go buy another property, the first answer I got was, well, you can't go do that now. You just spent all your money on that first property. You need to save money. And I remember people telling me like, oh, well, you're going to have to save another $100,000 now because you're going to need 20% down on a property. Remember, if I'm buying in New York, the properties I'm looking at are at least $500,000. So I'm needing in my bank like just $100,000 just to even go out and look at other properties. That's a huge chunk of change. That would take me years to be able to save. And that was something that I did not want to have to do. I recognized the potential after that very first deal to be able to buy the next one. And I needed to figure out how to be able to do that and how to be able to do that quicker so that way I could leave the 9-to-5 job that I had. That was important to me. That time, what I started doing was really diving into networking. I wanted to talk to anybody I could about real estate investing. And slowly but surely, all of a sudden, all of these different options for financing started to pop up. Okay. There are so many of them out there. And I feel like we just don't even think about them and they're not talked about really enough. I felt like I had to go dig for that information. And I'm really kind of tired of the gatekeeping and I'm really kind of tired of not being able to find information so easily about these different types of financing. So I am really pulling all of those things together, okay? The way that I see them, and I've kind of bucketed them, if you will, in my own mind, is there's kind of 4 different ways you can look at buying real estate. First way to look at it is using your stuff personally. What I mean by that is using your own money and using your own credit. Just like I did on that first house hack, right? I went, it was my paperwork, it was my money for my savings, and that was how I was able to buy it. But when we start to shift that and think about how else can we buy property, we want to start looking at it as what can I do personally, being bucket number 1. Bucket number 2, the idea of how can I use my money, but somebody else's credit and somebody else's experience. Option number 3 is using somebody else's money, but then still using kind of my credit and possibly my own experience within that. And four, using somebody else's money and somebody else's credit. Okay. This is where, when we can start think of those different options, we stop saying, okay, well, how much money is in my bank account? How much money do I need to save? How long is it going to take me to save? Oh my God, it's going to take me years to save that amount. And start saying, what can I do to take down this deal? How can I structure this specific deal? How do I structure the next deal to be able to scale and grow moving forward? Okay. Now, when we talk about the world of creative financing, I mean, once again, there are so many different options. We're talking seller financing, subject to, private money, BRRRR strategies, assumable mortgages, lines of credit, portfolio loans. There are so many different things within this. I personally got started with that house hacking idea. House hacking itself is simply the idea of personally living within a property, and then you can use that owner occupied financing to put down that lower down payment. Instead of buying an investment property where you need 20-25% down, you can actually house hack and buy a place if you're going to be living in it yourself as a primary residence. You can put down 3.5 or 5% instead. That saves you a lot. If you then took, let's say you even had 20% saved, well, you can really break that up into multiple properties if you're willing to kind of move during some time. That's actually what I would have done. If I was not married, that's what I would have done. I would have went and just every year I would have bought a different property and taken that 20% and put that down into multiple different properties over the few years. I would have built my portfolio in a few years and been done. Personally, that's what I would have done, looking back on it. But house hacking allows you to take advantage of that owner occupied financing to lower your own cost of living and also be able to pick up those assets, right? So it's important to be able to do that where then you can kind of get into the game. It's a little bit easier in that sense. Are there ramifications to it? Yes, but it's a great entry point. It's the way that I got introduced to real estate investing, and so many other women be able to as well. One of the other strategies that I've been able to do that I love is seller financing. One of the reasons why I love seller financing is because the seller themselves are the bank. It allows you to be in a space where you can negotiate what terms are going to look like, right? You're not just going to chase saying, hey, here's what you can do. This is it. These are our requirements. When you work with the seller on that, you can really structure a deal by being able to say, great, well, you know what? I would like a little bit of a lower interest rate. Can I put more money down? Can we change how many years the term of this loan is going to be? You can change that to make sure that the seller is getting out of the deal what they want, but also you can actually even have the option to a deal. I was able to do this in one of the properties that I purchased down in the Dominican Republic. I originally was looking for a smaller, more basic unit because that's what was in my budget for that time. I happened to come across a seller financing opportunity, which allowed me to purchase a bigger, better property that was going to bring in better cash flow because of the seller financing options with it. And I was able to work with the seller to say, hey, what can we do to get the interest rate around where I wanted it to be? What I was able to do was negotiate a sale price. I was able to negotiate what that down payment was going to look like in order to get the interest that I was really looking for. One of my other favorite strategies right now is using lines of credit. There are ways, as much as people can do credit card stacking or point stacking, where they're taking advantage of different credit cards and different points that are available and the opportunities of what they have if they have good credit. If you have equity in properties, not just an investment property, but even your own primary, there's an opportunity to really use one property to be able to get the next property, to be able to get the next one. And you're really reusing funds that you actually already have. I feel like so often I talk to women and they're saying, well, I want to be able to buy property, but I just don't have the funds right now. And what I teach in our inner circle is a financial analysis that I go through with every single lady that joins our inner circle at Lady Landlords. And I'm able to go through that with them. And I can't tell you how often I find money that these women didn't realize that they ever had. Sometimes that's within equity and the opportunity of how to tap into it and how to find the right type of lender that will allow you to be able to do that. But that also goes for retirement plans. We talk a lot about using our self-directed IRAs, whole life policies. There are so many different places that you probably have money and access to capital to be able to invest. just like within using private money lenders, which is a whole new space. Okay. So, what I want you to be able to do is to start getting out of the idea that you only can buy property or you can only scale if it's just you and if it's just your own savings. There are ways to buy property where the seller is the bank and everything is negotiable. There are ways to take over somebody else's mortgage. Nobody likes the interest rates these days. I hear that all the time in Lady Landlords. Oh my God, I don't want to buy right now because I used to be able to buy at a 2% interest rate or a 3% interest rate. I don't want to buy at 6. So cool. Go out and buy somebody's property and buy their rate at that 2 or 3%. These things are possible. We just have to start thinking about what we can do to take advantage of them. And that all comes from understanding finances. There are ways to also control a property and bring through that cash flow, even if you don't actually own it right now. You also can use yours or even other people's retirement accounts to be able to fund your deals. There's always a way to be able to purchase that property and get your money right back out of it. We need to start thinking more creatively. And this is why I am hosting the Lady Landlords Creative Financing class on April 28th. Okay. I am tired of having all these little drips and drabs of creative financing, which is such a broad term for, once again, so many different strategies. And I'm tired of just not kind of getting into the understanding of really what they are and how to use them and how to know when they're the right type of financing for that specific type of deal. So that's what we're going to be talking about in the creative financing class with Lady Landlords on April 28th. I want to make sure that we know, what are we actually saying to sellers? What are we saying to a private money lender or a person that we know has money in either equity or has money in a retirement plan that can possibly be our private money lender? And I want to make sure that we also, as always, talk about what to avoid. We do not want to be over leveraging ourselves. We do not want to be going into these opportunities thinking that the right type of financing is going to be right when really we are completely wrong, right? Nobody wants to go in like that. We want to go in feeling very confident when we're talking to lenders. We want to go in knowing our numbers. We want to make sure that we understand the deal breakdown. And we really want to make sure that we have that confidence that we need to be able to move forward. So I will drop that link down in the show notes if anybody is interested in joining us on April 28th for that creative financing. And we are going to go much more into detail with all of these different options of creative financing, because in that place, you're going to be able to use this creative financing to buy more properties faster with less of your own money and finally break that buy, save, buy cycle. So thank you very much for joining me today for today's episode of the Lady Landlords podcast. I hope today's episode just got you starting to think about the fact that there were so many other options out there, and there is never a need for any lady landlord to ever feel that capital holds them back, because the answers to all of your creative financing questions are out there, and let's get you clarity and let's get you your next action steps. Hope to see you on April 28th. Please do make sure to hit that subscribe button so you do not miss the next episode of the Lady Landlords podcast.
Thank you for listening to the Lady Landlords podcast. If you're feeling stuck in your real estate investing journey, visit lady-landlord.com to book a 15-minute orientation call with me and see if you're ready to join our mentorship program. Or you can subscribe to our newsletter and join our Facebook group for exclusive real estate investing tips and offers. Invest with confidence. Become a Lady Landlord today.